Hey guys, welcome back. It's M.I.Diverse. We're actually back. All three of us are back this time. Me, John, Jenna. This week, we're being a little bit niche. We kind of felt like talking about this. We're talking about art, but specifically, we're kind of doing a versus. This is I think this is a little bit of a new kind of thing for us, right, guys? The versus topics. So we're doing traditional art versus digital art. So John has a good couple points, and Jenna, I see you do a lot of digital art, so I know you have experience in doing some digital art. I have experience in a lot of traditional art, so I have some stuff I want to put in, but I know that there are caveats and not there's another word for it, like good things about digital art. So John, do you want to start for us?
Sure, I'd like to. So, so today we're talking about digital versus traditional art. So, my first note is the process and the use of traditional medias such as pencils, ink, paints, markers, and other art mediums can help a person explore their artistic abilities.
Yeah, I think what am I trying to say? At least for me, when I was working on a lot of traditional art, and I might be totally missing the point, but I think just need to get the thought out before I finish this point. One thing I love both traditional and digital art. I can tell you for certain. Sorry if you hear any extra sound. There's stuff going on upstairs. Um, it when working on traditional art, I there is the physical medium which I have an easier time working on coloring and just other parts of the actual piece of art. Where in digital art, I can still do the digital art. I can still like create the piece, but I always have trouble with rendering it. And where in traditional art, have a I don't really have that issue. I feel like I do a lot better in traditional art than do with than I do with digital art. And I don't I know you guys probably know just as well as me. I hate that freaking I hate freaking layers. I hate layers.
Yeah, that feeling where you realize that you've been working on the wrong layer this whole time.
Yeah, working yeah, you'll be drawing for like six or set. I can't, I hate that I have to when I say like several parts of hours now, like joke it's in my head. But when you work on a piece of art for several hours and then you realize, oh, I've been drawing on the line art this whole time. Or like when you're trying to do cleanup for line art and then you realize the line art looks worse than the sketch layer. Like there are there's caveats to both, obviously, because obviously paper as a medium is just doesn't last as long as a digital file. Of course, a digital file can be corrupted over time, but the, it's hard to say. I definitely have good arguments for both, but
I
I
mean,
go ahead, Jen.
I mean, for me anyway, despite what we say about digital versus traditional, I really don't like using the whole competitive angle for this stuff because
Yeah,
there really is no correct medium to draw something because it really just depends on what
yeah,
would fit within that medium. And it actually, within those categories, it also depends on what type of paper and pen and pencil and brush you use, and also depends on the drawing app you use, whatever that may be. There's a
right.
lot of variety you can choose between like all these things and within them. And it's like at the same time, not one type of those things is not one of those types is superior to the other, whatever it may be. Like some drawing apps, for example, it's like you have to pay for some of them,
Yes,
and some of the free ones might not. always have might not always have the features that you want. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's really about working with what you are limited to make the
Yeah.
most out of it.
And that's something when it comes to digital art, I'm not very fond of, because the quote unquote better tools are usually kind of locked behind a paywall sometimes, where it doesn't really like, you can have nice tools for like I guess it's all that's for any art media. But I get what you're talking about. You get like, what is it? Clip Studio Paint has a couple of, like, a payment service. Obviously, was a GIMP. That one also has some pay to basically pay to win service. It is for decent brushes.
Or
Obviously,
you or
go no.
something like oh sorry. Or something like Ibis Paint.
Uh huh.
Um, you have to have a subscription with them in
Yes.
order to use some of their services.
Yeah, and that's been my issue. Obviously, on the other side of the argument, there is, what am I trying to say? Obviously, there's different pencils, different paper qualities, different erasers, different pens. Obviously, the materials. Either way, you're going to have to pay for some of these materials, unfortunately. But at least I think with digital, compared to traditional, is that you do still technically have somewhat of a selection to compare, or to say, just going and having to buy like a bunch of pencils. But art, that's the thing about art, that is, like, you can use just like a school pencil to make something. You don't necessarily need to have like 2A HB, um 6C. These are actually real pencil numbers. I'm not kidding. And you don't need to have all these fancy pencils to do that. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with digital art.
I mean, heck, actually recently I've been attempting to do more traditional stuff beyond just pencil
Hmm.
sketches.
Yeah.
I have been dabbling into like ink pens, um, but now I'm starting to get into more like using the markers that I have,
Yeah.
like I think it's like Blick Studio markers,
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
Blick is really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also I even recently purchased some like actually I can pull them out. Crayola markers, washable markers for like a display piece that I worked on that I finished.
That's
so it's
good.
like
Nice.
so it's like you can literally create a masterpiece from like Crayola if you wanted to with Crayola
Yeah, you
like color
you
pencils.
you don't need necessarily like Copic markers to make a really good piece. You can just get like a box of cheap crayons from the dollar store. There's a series that Draw with Jaza did a couple years ago, about a decade ago or
Oh yeah, I
whatever.
like his.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A series that Draw with Jaza did. It obviously, he did. I think sometimes he was trying to shill some of the more expensive products, or his own products at some times. But like, when you actually look at like the finished art for both, there are times in some of his, cheap versus expensive product, like art products, you can see that you can still have a good piece of art with the cheaper product. It's just depending on the person who's using the, what's the word? I guess medium. Depends on the person who's using that medium or tool.
yeah, I totally agree. I think that like it shouldn't really matter what kind of brand or what kind of stuff you use as long as you have the skill.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, I've noticed that like I when I like when I like draw or color with markers by hand, and then I just take what I learned from by doing by hand, I apply.
Uh-oh. He
You
sorry,
cut
technical
out.
difficulties. Uh
He cut out.
so while his internet is trying to get back online, one thing that I wanted to mention, something in relation to uh digital drawings, was that like just because digital drawings are made in a drawing app, that doesn't always make it easier. I mean,
Mm,
sure, you have the
Hmm.
ability to reposition or increase or decrease the size of stuff,
hmm
but
Size of custom work.
ultimately you have to decide what goes on that blank canvas and where things are supposed to go using your own hand. It's like it's using the technology as a tool, and that is why you cannot compare that to AI art, because digital art is something that someone actually took time out of their day, out of their week, out of a month even, took time and effort and actually thought about what they wanted to do with that,
Mm,
and actually did the whole process of
putting in the
making
work.
the art.
yeah.
Yeah,
John,
definitely
you yeah.
putting in the effort, putting in the work. That's all it's about. It's really about putting in the work and knowing the skill to put in the work.
Hmm.
For me personally, when I use a medium by hand, I can apply that skill to digital
Hmm.
and vice versa, which is really, really cool. And I mean, art is always a learning process. That's
Hmm.
another thing that people need to realize. Like, it's a learning process. No matter how many years you've been doing art, it's a learning
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I totally agree.
mhm,
Obviously, now my art form is more of photography type art form, but to kind of bounce off of both of you guys is I think a major problem. A lot of people like to make the argument that digital art isn't real art because it's not made with something physical, but it's more art than AI slop
mhm,
because at least with digital art, like you said, Jenna, somebody took the time, effort, planning, all this other stuff to actually put something on the paper. In that case, put something on the canvas to make something. A lot of people make really good work. At least in my opinion, this is our opinion, even though some of these we feel are definitely morally better or than using some of these robots is just there's a lot more soul in like human generated art than artificial intelligence like copying your artwork, copying your work, and then making something that's just regurgitated, Disney-fied, or whatever style that you tell it to do. Because you're not making an art piece. You're not putting your own experience into the piece. You are just asking for product. And I feel like that's another major big difference is that AI just makes product. And I think these people that really want to try to sell you on it aren't trying to sell you it like it's actual art. They're trying to sell you something like they're a salesman, if that makes sense. Like because they want the instant gratification of something already being done and not the work of actually making the art, taking the time to sit down. I understand that there's like parts of it that it's like, hey, we can't get X or Y to do something, so we need to. There's a lot of logisticals to it, but there's the human element is what makes art a lot better. Yeah, I can understand, because I was thinking about this while they were talking. I can understand some people make bad art, but at least they made it. You look at Ringo Starr's art. I think it's Ringo that did all those really, like, I don't want to say crappy, that he's like a 70-year-old man on acid half the time. He's making very abstract art. It's very much abstract, but they sell for like buco bucks because he makes them. Because obviously he has his, like, oh, I used to sing, oh, I used to be part of the Beatles, like tag to like his art, but the human element is like the better part, and just the process is just so much of what makes a lot of it good. So you know, this was mainly about digital versus traditional, but I also do think to bring up the fact that people will try to say that digital is not art in the same sense when people like say that AI slop isn't art, is like, no, you still put the work in. You still are using brushes. You are
Mhm.
you still have to learn anatomy. You have to learn lighting. You have to learn all of these things to understand and the what you are making. Obviously, it's not like you don't have to study for years. You can just have a reference. You can have a reference to paint off of, to draw off of, and all that kind of stuff. There's not like there's no textbook way to draw. People can just draw the way they want to. I'm sorry. I went on a tangent. You guys take over for me for a minute. I'm going to sit back and listen. I'm going to sit back and listen.
I was just going to mention the story about the thing that happened at I think it was called Dragon Con. That whole situation, like it's just real sad that that even happened. Because
I
I'm
didn't
like,
know what happened.
oh, you didn't know what happened at Dragon Con? So what happened was apparently someone decided to act as if they were related to a certain artist, and they actually weren't related. And basically, they were selling AI prints.
I believe I seen that,
Yeah.
and they had the cops called on them too.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I didn't want to get on a tangent again, but that this is gonna be short. The thing I said about product and being a
Hmm.
salesman for product, that's part of the thing I'm talking about.
Hmm.
That is what grinds my proverbial gears.
Hmm.
So I think so, Jenna. I've been blabbing on about you know digital, like how digital is still technically an art form. I know you do digital art. I need your thoughts.
Well, I like I also feel like from my experience, I feel that there are some artists that have this weird purist mindset that it has to be either purely one or the other and can't do something like traditional drawing and then draw it digitally, which is something I did when I was like when I was in my teens. I did that mostly because it's like I don't know, I was just so used to that. Um, and it was, I mean, in retrospect, I don't really know why I did that, but I think that was just my way of processing how to do like art at that time. And I say that because when I was like mid to late teen, I remember I encountered someone in a comment section of a drawing that I made on social media. And looking back on it, I remember feeling very worried and concerned when the person asked me about how I did it and that I traced a traditional drawing on a digital drawing app. And it's like, granted, it probably wasn't intended to be accusatory. And I don't remember exactly what they said, but younger me thought I was going to get in trouble. And whatever I said to them was enough to where I never heard from them again. So, I mean, I understand about wanting to get better within a certain medium and working within it. But it's also like, don't go after people who do something like drawing a sketch on paper and then tracing it on a digital drawing app. It's like they're likely they're very likely young and still learning or creating a certain effect for the drawing. And it should also be mentioned that tracing is not always a bad thing.
No.
It always depends on what the intention is. Because for some, it is how they learn to do certain drawing motions so they can create like muscle memory for themselves. And it's like, yeah, granted, not all artists start out this way, but that's fine because there are numerous other methods that you can use as a budding artist to get the feel of it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I wanted to make a joke with that, but it's actually genuine. That's what you get with a lot of Dragon Ball artists or whatever. They just like they draw over the screen cap to practice and then they learn from it. But you said you did the original art that you did as your own traditional art.
Yeah, I
in my opinion, that's totally fine. You still did your art. And you just traced over the line art. You did the line art traditionally, and then you imported it to finish it digitally.
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
Yeah, I drew it. I drew it on a sketchbook that I had, and then I took a picture of it, and then I put the photo into the drawing app.
Yes, that's totally fine. Anybody that tells you, and it's not just for you, Jenna, it's for the people watching at home. If you're drawing, and anybody tells you that you can't start the sketch on paper and then put it into digital, they're full. I'm sorry, actually, we're definitely over the minute mark. They're full of shit. They're full of shit. I believe, this is my opinion, I don't think I stated it. I feel like doing it traditionally helps you get the planning stages better because you know how it feels to draw it. And then when you get to the actual, like, on paper, or not on paper, but on like tablet or on drawing software, you already have everything planned out. So then you're just kind of cleaning it up. You're making it more presentable in the way that you want it to be presented and not just as a pen and paper sketch.
Yeah, and I imagine this is probably what professionals do anyway.
Yeah. I mean, for the most, I want to say they did this. Sorry, I'm getting frustrated. They did this shit for like Disney animators back in like the 60s, 70s when they're doing all these preliminary sketches or doing these animation sketches. And then they're having to do it when they were actually still making 2D movies and not just 3D movies, you know. Oh, they, at least for a time, they were taking the sketches, putting the sketches into the digital software, where probably did a little bit of cleanup and then animated them. So it's not like I think you are right. People have like a weird like elitism is that you either have to do it all the way digital or all the way traditional. You don't have to. You can do both.
And then I imagine there are most artists that draw both digitally and traditionally. especially with younger artists like us.
Yeah. And I just seen this thing. I seen it on a tweet. I'm not calling it what they want it to be called. But I seen on a tweet, some people end up buying like all this material just to draw something. You can just like draw on your phone. Some people just like draw on their phone on a broken screen with their finger on a drawing app. It's I could have said that earlier. I just wanted to say it because I just really think it's funny. But this elitism about having the right materials for all this stuff, you
And
don't
granted, and sorry,
You don't? Yeah. No. I was done.
I was just gonna say, and granted, I feel like most people who are saying that are probably not artists.
Yeah. It's probably just something to try to sell you, like the bigger amount of stuff.
Yeah.
Like John, I see your drawing glove there.
Mhm.
Not necessarily not all artists have it, but it's a welcome tool for some artists.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like it. It definitely keeps like you from not only smudging your own artwork, but also if not, don't smudge the screen. Don't
Yeah.
smudge the tablet screen.
Oh yeah, I also have one of those. Actually, I think I have two, like one an extra one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It,
Luckily,
it,
my
it
tablet had two of them, so I have an extra one too.
I don't think
Um,
I don't think mine did, but I completely understand, although sometimes I do like having a steady hand for when, I am drawing. But I can understand for, you know, there are here's the thing, and I think we're kind of going back and forth on things. There are benefits to having the good tools or the right tools, but you
mhm,
don't need them. You
mhm,
don't necessarily need them to make good art. It's
mhm.
just sometimes these tools help people. Sometimes they're good accessibility tools. In okay, okay, I'm gonna be real. Let's be real here. Yes, the episode was about a digital ver- versus traditional. We got one more. I'm bitching about AI for a minute. People say that people with disabilities need AI. There are people without arms and legs, people who have limited motion in their bodies where their arms can only be like this or the hands can be like this. They can make art just as well with their bodies, just as much as the next person. I've seen people draw with their mouth. So anytime somebody tries to sell you AI because it would help the disabled, they're full of crap. Anybody can make
It's like
art with their body.
it's like the people trying to sell you AI are they're the real entitled ones.
Yeah. No, yeah, no. Again, for those watching at home and for John and Jenna, sorry. I'm it. I'm just trying. I wanted to get that out there because this isn't technically an art episode.
Yeah, and you can't go 5 seconds without the discussion of AI art quotations in quotations. It's really just slop.
Well, especially nowadays. Especially nowadays, it's everywhere. So
Yeah,
it's
unfortunately.
it's a thing that needs to be said.
Hmm.
You know,
And that's what's great about our podcast. When it needs to be said, we just say it. Just,
I will say, I will say, to get into the actual subject of the episode, I think one thing I appreciate about traditional art versus digital art is there is the tactile feeling. There's a tactileness to traditional art, especially traditional painting. I've done paintings before. I have several paintings upstairs in my house. There is that traditional there the if you've ever touched a dry painting on a canvas, there's just it's not a bad feeling, especially for like somebody that's on the spectrum or whatever. It's an interesting texture, but there's something about the feeling of touching paint on a canvas that you don't necessarily get with digital art. That is enjoyable. We're actually I actually did want to like make a versus type thing on it. this because it did kind of come up. I think paintings are good when you can actually feel them, but that doesn't take away from the digital painting. But that's
And
just me.
that was definitely a point in my notes, was like traditional art isn't gonna go away.
No.
It's just never gonna go away. If it went away after digital came in, then we still then what, where in the world would we still, how in the world would we not have like Michael's, Jerry's Artorama,
Mhm.
like Hobby Lobby? We wouldn't have these places if they were saying it's just digital or nothing.
Yeah.
So
Like there's so much to it.
mhm,
You can't prompt a piece of paper. You have to make it.
mhm,
You have to make it. And
And
exactly.
it's go ahead, Jenna. You were saying.
and also it's like I can understand why some artists might prefer making digital over traditional, because it, like I actually mentioned in that, like I mentioned previously, it can give artists more control and can easily erase mistakes than something like watercolor or markers. Because in my experience experimenting with markers, well, you really do have to plan a little bit more
Yeah.
with what markers you want to use, because
What
once
type
you
of
put it,
paper?
and what yeah, that, but I was gonna say, like, because once that marker is put on there, that's it. You really can't
Uh-huh.
get rid of it. Even if you like use whiteout, it's still there. It's
Yeah.
jarring. It's
And
staring at you,
and
mocking you.
that's the argument I would have for digital art, is that you can fix your mistakes a little bit easier on a digital canvas
Mhm.
versus a physical traditional canvas. Of course, you can use paint thinner or any other stuff that, but that's also destructive to the actual canvas. It's harmful to your lungs. I have worked with traditional, like, I assume we've all worked with some of these traditional media. We've worked with these traditional mediums before. We know that there are things that are actually physically harmful to our bodies to correct the mistakes that we've made on paper. So that's why it's good in a digital art form to be able to correct those mistakes without physical harm. It might be some emotional harm if you accidentally draw an eye like 97 times the wrong way and then you're having a panic attack like 30 minutes later. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. No, it's there are solid arguments for both. I heard you were John. I want to hear your opinion, please.
I think that that's true. There is an argument for both on either, when you're using one versus the other. And I really, so, as I've said before, I like using both because I get to learn of how to use both mediums in both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And probably for me, I like doing both. There's an
Yeah.
advantage of doing both,
Yeah.
whether you're planning a piece of art that you think, oh, maybe this could only done in digital or
Yes.
only done by hand. Kind of
Yes.
like the idea comes to you.
Yes. Especially in the way that it's crap. I just had the word. Like the way it can be conveyed
Yeah.
is just probably is a lot better in a tradition. Could be better in traditional, or it could be better digital.
Mhm.
Obviously there are some people that, like, if there's like a visual, like, edit, not visual edit, but say somebody wants to do a glitch effect, you could technically still do a glitch effect in paint. There's just a lot more process to it but or in traditional there's a lot more process to it, where in digital that's a little bit easier. There's a couple extra, like, either if you're doing just like taking a pixel and moving it like three or four things, like you can just take a piece out of the drawing and move it, where in a traditional art form you can You have to plan that out ahead of time. Go ahead, Jenna.
And or at least in my case with IBIS Paint, there's already like an effect for it. There's already a
Yes.
glitch effect for it.
Yes. I I'm sorry, I'm talking circles around it, but it's good. It is good. It is good to have both. Um, I seen your question, John, in the chat. I will say I was on a big Copic marker kick for a hot minute. There's just something about like I think Copic markers are alcohol markers, I believe.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's just something about using Copic markers with some of the paint blending. Of course, there's the not paint blending, but color blending. Of course, there's like issues of what like one color staining the other for the pen. But like it's just it has like this very visually appealing effect to me that like you don't necessarily. I mean, you do get the same good effects with like say wax, like when it comes to like crayons or other types of stuff. You can make good art with crayons, but I don't know. I don't know. I like there's like comic art done in Copics, and just like the type of shading that you can get with a Copic. I don't know. There's something about it. There's something about I like. So, Jenna, did you have one that
Uh,
you liked when
hmm,
it came to at least a physical one?
I don't know. I don't really have a favorite, particularly favorite medium that I do because especially right now I'm still like experimenting with markers, and actually right now I also have like I don't want to say colored pens, but like like they look like pens, but
Yeah.
they're like colored.
No.
But
I get it. I think that's the only problem where it's not an open answer. Sometimes it's just as an artist, you know, experimenting and learning from it, the experiments just kind of is part of the process. Unfortunately, that's what makes human art better because artists are constantly experimenting with their art.
like something like this, I have like these
Yeah.
things.
Oh, those
Um,
Stadler pens?
yeah, Stadler.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I haven't been using those things as much as
Yeah.
the Blick Studio markers, but I think I just need to find what can work with those things. And I mean, I don't know. It's right now I'm in that experimental phase.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, I think another thing that always like stops artists, and this isn't just a digital versus traditional, is like failure is a big thing. I think I said before. There is a saying, and I'm not just saying it because it also just kind of popped up in chat, but yeah, I think it just needs to be said in general. Is it, you are showing your art is showing what's inside your head. You want to show people what you want them to see. The I can't talk. If you do fail, failure is growth. There is just because you might not have an art piece that looks good to you, it might be good to others. I will see some artists like post a really good piece of art and then they delete it 5 minutes later because I don't know, they drew like a specific line the wrong way. Or, I'll take a photo and oh crap, uh, like I accidentally left a piece of the set behind the like in the shot. I have to repost it with a different. I have to either repost the photo or retake the photo. Oh, but that's the learning part of it, and that's what makes the human element so good. Is like people are you learn from it. You were actively learning as you're making the art. Ugh.
And and admittedly, for me, part of what kind of stops me from drawing more is because it's like I I'm worried that the drawing that I have in my head is not going to look as good on paper because it's like I'm still trying to figure out how like because right now my art style is like what I like to describe as like semi-realistic.
Mhm.
But in my head, I can picture something being a tad more realistic than what I'm used to. And it's like, I don't know if I can do that though.
But that's the thing. I think it's for all artists. It's like they want something to look exactly how they want it to look in their head. I have that problem all the time. I could probably, if I spent months of doing an art piece of a specific like character, I probably could make a really good painting or art of a character. But I'm also very impatient or very there's another word, or not pessimistic, but I guess critical. Every artist has their own critiques for one thing. And even if I have like a little detail wrong, I will get frustrated with myself, and sometimes I will go on like not benders, but benders aren't the right word, but like when you pause on something for a hot minute, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I,
Where
like
you where you where you rethink your life choices.
yeah, you kind of go on a hiatus, so to speak.
Yeah.
Eek. I know I do this all the time. I'll do I'll be working on I'll be doing a bunch of like photos or a drawing or whatever. I have so many drawings on my computer or on in like I haven't bought you know a physical drawing book in a hot minute, but I can tell you there are sketches that I started. I only got 3% in, and because I got frustrated with myself self, I just stopped. But sometimes
Mm.
it's just kind of learning. I think it also could be a learning thing, but I can understand. I think it's just because of how our brains work or whatever. Sometimes we want something to be perfect the first try, and it's just like I and I have to drill it in myself too. Is that it can't be perfect the first try. You have to try and learn from all these experiences, all these mistakes, because you are not going to learn if you are perfect all the time. There's all these people that probably are like professionals that view. I mean, shit. What was they do like comedy bits of it all the time in like some stuff of where like a really good artist makes really good art and then they take it down and like destroy it because they hate it. I think it's a natural process. It's a natural process to be critical of your art. And I am victim of it myself. I'm victim of it myself. Self. Sorry. So
And
yeah.
and also another thing is that there's also nothing wrong with looking up references and being inspired by other things that you see because that is how you build your own style. That is
One
how
hundred
you
percent.
like you take what you like and leave the rest. It's
One
like
hundred
it's
percent.
completely normal. And so if anyone says that, oh, everything needs to come solely from your mind, it's like they're most likely not an actual artist. And they're probably just like saying bullcrap to you.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why we have for art, that's why we have mood boards. That's why we have things to use for like if you're trying to get the essence of something and you're trying to figure out what is that thing supposed to look like, and you're using your mood board to kind of understand that essence. I mean,
Yeah.
filmmakers use mood boards,
Yeah.
regular artists use mood boards, people who plan weddings use mood boards.
Exactly. Like, and that's why Pinterest was such like a big thing for a hot minute before it started becoming AI slop half the time, is because Pinterest was a lot of people's like online mood boards. They were making they were making boards for reference it is so they have a physical like or digital, but they have like a representation of what they're wanting and make an art piece off of. So that is a good thing. It's not bad to have a mood board. It's not bad to have references. And any of these people that tell you that they did it all in their head without any help, they're either really advanced in their stuff or they're really full of shit.
And also another thing as well is that not all artists start the same,
Mhm.
because some are instant geniuses, like they instantly know what they're doing. Some are late bloomers, and some
Yeah.
people are a gradual process. And that's okay, because this is very dependable on the person, because we're all different, we're all human. It's okay. It's not a sin to be a you. It's not a sin to be different.
Mm-hmm. And that's the really important thing. Art is art. Art is an
Mhm.
expression. And I think a lot of people just need to. A lot of the people that say they're artists but act more like critics, sorry to say, need to get their heads out of their ass. You know, if anything, if you're gonna be critiquing art, don't be like, say it's a plus size woman drawing, and like the critique is just saying the character's fat. It's like, no, if you're gonna critique the art, critique how the anatomy is in a way that is like constructive and not just like, oh, it looks like shit. Say it's like, well, add a little bit here, or like if you're doing like a piece of a plant or whatever, it's like, oh, well, it might be up to interpretation, but like, you could add a couple bit of striations or whatever. I have a friend that does a lot of like both digital and traditional art. You know I have plenty of opinions about like him as a person. His art's pretty okay. He does a lot of like he does a lot of like very out of the edge toku, not toku, but um do you guys know what Fist of the North Star is? Like
I've
at a
heard the
glance.
name.
Yes, he does a lot of like 80s manga style stuff or whatever. Very very hatch work, all that kind of stuff. And of course I have some opinions on it, but it's never just to like shit on him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I, he has problems with anatomy. He had he it's never to shit on him. So,
And also
uh,
another thing as well is that even when artists actually do critique your work, it's like take what actually can work reasonably for you and leave the
mhm.
rest, because there are some critiques that may not work for specific people, and that's fine. Just
Yeah.
take what can be readily applied to you and all that jazz.
Yes.
I was about to say some people might argue that, like, I mean, one of the things is like when I needed help from one of my job coaches is she was very surprised of how well I took critique. And I was talking to her about that, and I said, "Well, yeah, I kind of have to learn how to take critique, because if I don't learn to take critique, how do I learn? How
Yeah.
do I, how do I, uh, like, how do I know what I'm doing wrong? How do I learn? How do I do these things
and
if
and
I don't
also
learn to take critique?"
learning the difference between constructive and destructive.
Mhm.
Exactly.
But also
Yes.
also some people that do critique. I think this is actually a problem with a lot of art forms nowadays. There's people that don't understand the difference between constructive criticism and deconstructive criticism. There's way too many people in the film world that just watched too much cinema sins, and then they think that's how you critique stuff. They seen too much um angry video game nerd, but only the nerd as a character, not the guy actually behind the character. Or same thing with Channel Awesome. You have people that like they did their critiques as characters, and people just genuinely thought that that was their opinion, and then some of these people formed their opinion in this like exaggerated way.
Yeah, and actually that's something I was going to say. It's like because of the nature of YouTube now, and like and you have all of these people, you have these mix of people that are either playing a persona or their genuine thoughts. Like people don't know the difference anymore. So, like you said,
Yeah.
we have examples of people who like genuinely get angry at things that you really shouldn't be that angry about.
Yeah, and obviously I brought up film examples, but that also does kind of get no, it especially pertains to any other art form because I've seen it. I see it in digital and traditional art. You're gonna get somebody. I know we're kind of really short on time, but I wanted to bring it up. You get people that say they do like a race, like they draw a specific character black, and a certain crowd gets angry about it. The artist is still self-expressing themselves and putting their thought and twist onto the art piece. Instead of getting mad about the character being not your race, just like it, just point out if there's something wrong with how it was executed. If there's nothing wrong, a lot of these art pieces are really good. A lot of these art pieces are really good. I will say that. There might just, if anything, I've ever had problems with is rendering. There's never been, I've never had an issue with like whatever the character, however the character is depicted in that form. Obviously, there's like subtext ones that are like, hey, I don't like, like how you're making the character like seem like a child or like being weird about it. Of course, obviously, there's that subcontext X or whatever, but they're like I said, people don't like you guys said. There are people that don't understand constructive versus deconstructive criticism, and that is a widespread issue everywhere. So, oh, sorry. Was there anything you guys wanted to add before we signed off?
Oh yeah, I was about to mention my favorite art mediums. So
Yeah.
this will be quick. So I like doing colored pencil, watercolors, and markers in the way of by hand. And
Oh
then
yeah.
obviously art is, whatever.
I will add to that.
Mhm.
I really one thing I do like about watercolor is there's just especially if you do it on watercolor paper, the way that the watercolor paint picks up the texture of the paper, I really think it is a beautiful art form. I probably just do not have the best hands for that technique. But I do love the art form. I can see why that's your favorite.
Yeah.
So, oh, right. So we talked for a hot minute. We went a little bit over time, and I'm sorry. I wish I let you get to your point earlier, John, because you know, and I wanted all of us to have a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of repertoire, and you know what? It's good for us. Well, anyway, this is M.I.Diverse, guys. I'm Dryw. That's John. That's Jenna. We're gonna be this is a weird. It's summer, so if we're like back and forth out here and there periodically, you we have the subscribe button for a reason. We have